Hi, I'm Ishi Abel with the Horse Human Connection Matrix. Today I'm going to tell you a story and give you some background, talk about several different things, including what it's like to have an autistic brain, the line that I've been walking for nearly 10 years about riding horses and how I interact with them and what I call horseship. After telling you this story of what happened last week, I am going to ask a couple of way more experienced horse people what their take on it is, what they would do to proceed, and for them to just comment on their perspective of what happens. Because when we walk two worlds, when we connect with horses and want horseship, we have to leave a lot of things behind. And just like we want to create habitualness in training horses, we have been habituated in how other horse people trained us and whatever tradition that was. And it's hard to shake some of that loose. And our emotional state is constantly reflected in the horse. And I believe that whatever we're processing unconsciously, and constantly, our brains are computers, we are constantly processing whatever it is that we're processing is creating our world, because I truly believe that our thoughts, our words, our deeds, and our actions create the reality that we live in. So you may have heard me talk about my horse Charlie before. Charlie is a 9-year-old Mustang that I bought from a young girl. She was 18, and she had gotten the horse from the person who, the trainer that took it from the, I'm going to call it the reservation, who took the horse from the Mustang pens and halter trained it. And this girl, it was this young girl's first project on her own to train this horse. And she had some mentoring. When I first put the horse in the round pen, it was frantic. It was anxious. It kept doing quick turns about the size of the pen it had been kept in. It did not demonstrate balance. It did not demonstrate any kind of calmness or regulation. And I took with me a woman I used to respect quite a bit, who'd been a horsewoman her whole life and had successfully trained many, many horses in old school methods, with a big heart, and wanted her opinion on it. We brought this horse home. And the story that the young girl told me is that she'd done a lot of groundwork. She'd gotten on the horse once and it had bolted, not bucked, but bolted. And I thought, consulting with this experienced horsewoman, that, I think we can start at the beginning, retrain the horse, and it shouldn't be a problem. So I want to back up a little bit and tell you what my experience has been at that point training horses. So I have another horse named Sipsy, who you've heard me talk about, and I had a mentor help me train Sipsy. That's Carissa. You've probably heard her speak if you've listened to all of my podcasts. Sipsy was a checked out horse, so there was never a fear of her taking off or running. She was really checked out, so we had to really coax her. In fact, it was 3 months getting on her back frequently before I could actually get her to take steps, because she was so afraid of ropes and she'd been so mistreated that, like, kicking her or waving a rope behind her was just not an option. It wasn't an option. I remember one lesson Carissa gave me on her old mare, where for an hour she had me sit on this horse in the pasture and predict which leg would move next, to bring my awareness to how the horse moved, because that would translate into how I would communicate with Sipsy to get her feet moving. Oh, Chris has a lot of methods, a lot of things that really work that I think other people don't know about. So my experience was that I had helped train Sipsy by being given homework to do, and that Carissa actually trained her and worked her when she came once a month. And then I would do the homework and learn what to do and create the relationship with this horse. So I'm planning to do something similar with this horse, Charlie, as I bring him home. That's the plan. I also want to include in my history, in my conscious mind, what happened when I ended up sending Sipsy to another trainer to put some finish work on her. I wanted her to understand her leads better. I wanted her to be able to drop into a lope, which she'd been resistant to do. This was after she'd had years of training that was very slow. So I've gone really, really slow in whatever I do with untrained horses because I don't want to make a mistake. I don't want to create a trauma in them that then I have to backtrack to try to figure out, because I'm not sure what I'm doing to begin with. I have to have help. And, we all know what we know. We all start where we start. So that's my history with bringing Charlie home. That's my history with sending Sipsy. Oh, I sent her to this other trainer. And I believed that this woman would be okay. I sent Chris a video of the woman riding. She seemed like she could ride okay. She got Sipsy's attention right away. She was very, very big and definitely in charge. And the woman said I could come visit once a week and we would check in. And she didn't check in with me. I tried to visit. She told me it wasn't a good time 3 different times. And finally, I got in the trailer and went down there before she was done to find my horse had dropped like 50 pounds, which wasn't a bad thing because she was overweight. But in that amount of time, it seemed a bit severe. And when I came and found Sipsy, she was in a paddock with another horse who wasn't letting her eat. And she was just standing there completely checked out. She didn't acknowledge me. She didn't look at me. She was just inward, like worse than when I had got her. So when I brought her home, it was another year on the ground to reestablish trust and relationship before we could pick up our training again. And a lot of people will disagree with me, like, oh, that wasn't necessary. Before or during the time that Carissa was mentoring me, training Sipsy, I went with another young woman who used to come out to the ranch all the time and ride and play with horses in the round pen and do whatever we do, try on equipment and go for rides. And we decided to go to a competition where I believe there were 6 trainers in 6 round pens who were each brought in a horse that was only halter broke. And in a weekend, they had a weekend to use whatever methods they had in front of people. There was an audience to train these horses and then ride them through a mountain trail and obstacle course that was set up in an indoor arena. And we went both days, all day, and watched these different trainers with these different horses. And some of them were more successful than others. We watched horses be very dysregulated. We watched trainers go up, come down, be aggressive, advance, retreat, use timing, release, all kinds of the things that natural horsemanship does. And at the end of the 2 days, I said, sure, you can do that, but at what cost? What is that horse going to be like later? That's that one trainer and that horse over a weekend. When that horse goes back to its owner, do you think the owner has those same skills, the same body language, and will be able to take and proceed and just ride that horse? No, absolutely not. No. So for decades, it's been standard to, oh, why don't you just go take your horse to a trainer and put 30 days on it and get it back and it'll be fine. Well, sure, if everybody speaks the same language, if everybody gets big and aggressive and dominant and knows how to do that all the time, that might work. That worked for a long time. Were the horses treated like slaves? Absolutely. So some people will take 90 days to put on a horse. And that's better. I see a lot of horse trainers quit, and they all have the same complaint. I can't help the people. I can train a horse, but I can't get people to understand what I've done. That's a big problem for the horse, for the owner, the keeper, and for the frustrated horse trainer. It's really hard to find somebody to train a horse, which is why I took Sipsy, an hour away to this woman who I thought would do good by her, who did not. That's why I've waited and done 4 years of groundwork with Charlie, not wanting to make a mistake, because my favorite person, mentor, has a full-time job doing something else and a farm and family and not a lot of time. That's why I talk about this stuff, because there's change, and the change has come. The change is coming. It's happening. It's already happened in a lot of respects, but the change brings with it more questions. If we're going to allow them choice, we have to stand by it. And that's hard. It's really hard, because people want to ride horses, because we're habituated to riding horses, because we have in our mind still that language of just get bigger, make the horse do it, take them through it again, take them, get off and make them do it, and then get back on, make them, make them, make them. Dominance, dominance, dominance. I found myself in two very, very different places last week. We went into the round pen. I went into the round pen with a woman who teaches Continuum, which is a quiet, introspective movement meditation. This woman also has a horse, and she choreographs with horses. And she's very present. And another woman who spends a lot of time meditating and does EFT tapping. So both of these women have a meditation practice, are very centered, grounded, gentle, and wanting to connect. And we could come into that round pen with no agenda. We spent 7 hours in beautiful horse time with everybody's nervous systems relaxed, playing with crystal bowls and hand pans and tapping and connecting. And we really were welcomed into their culture, their world of slow and present. And 2 days later, I had a trainer come who I had sent Charlie to several months ago to put some rides on him, because I have been afraid to get on this horse. I had back surgery. I'm 62 years old. And there was something in his history, something in my intuition that has said, don't get on. I watched Carissa ride him. I watched somebody else ride him. I hired 2 other trainers who couldn't see where he was and didn't want to get on him either. I mean, having a horse stand still at the mounting block, taking a step or two, that's an easy fix. You can do that in 10 minutes. But neither one of these other young women would get on him either. So the horse has a don't get on me vibe, even though he takes a saddle. He's very calm. He loves to come up and nuzzle and be close to you, and he's friendly, and he wants to be a good partner. So I took him down and had this other trainer put some rides on him, and she has similar philosophies. So I thought, well, this will work great. So she did that, and I went down and I rode him. I rode him on a little trail ride, and it was great. I could feel him come up under me. I could feel that he wanted to be a partner. So the thing that I'd like to add about being afraid to get on Charlie, like other people had hesitated, and one of them had actually figured out that she knew the horse by a different name because I had changed his name, and that the young girl that sold him to me had told this woman that he had bucked, but she told me that he only bolted. So I think in my mind, there's always been this possibility that what ended up happening could happen. And even though I had this great relationship and still have a great relationship with the horse, I didn't want to get on him. And so I did this tapping, the EFT tapping with my friend who did it with me and the horse. And normally doing it with the horse, you use a surrogate with an animal, but he was right there. So she tapped right on his body with him and with me about both of our fears, about my fear of getting on and about his fear of humans, from being a Mustang and being branded and caught and separated at the pens and gelded and possibly injured there. And there's one thing that I've come to in walking this line in between how I want to be with horses and what tradition says and what dominance says and what's safe and what's not safe. When do I want to do what? And a while back, like probably 6 years ago, I came to the conclusion that for safety, health, and travel, I would be the leader. I will be the benevolent leader. I will use dominance if I have to during those times because they are under my care and I'm responsible. And I have no problem stepping into leadership. Maybe part of the problem is I don't know enough about horse training to be able to train horses, but I'm not actually trying to train horses. I'm trying to hang out with horses. I'm trying to be coached to train horses, and I would still like to ride. And I don't know why it's so hard. And I'm looking forward to people, weighing in on this and telling me what they think. So, and I don't think I'm the only person with this type of dilemma because more and more people are waking up to what's possible with horses. They're waking up to what happens when we connect with them in these ways. And a lot of people just quit riding. I mean, that might be where I am. I don't know. But then she came here a couple months later and we did fine on flat ground. And we took him up on a trail on a hill. And so in this situation, I'll give you some more background. The situation is I have complex PTSD. I am doing EMDR. I am almost done. It works really well. And I'm happier than I've ever been. I'm less reactive than I've ever been. And I'm really looking forward to finishing it and having no more trauma in my life. Okay, I say that with a smile because we all know life happens, right? But at least the cumulative stuff will be gone and I'm way, way more functional. But what happens with EMDR is while you're working in a memory chain, while you're processing and reprogramming that particular memory, the issue of that memory shows up in my life every single time. So part of what I've been working on this week has been choice, saying what I need to say. Where's the edge of control that sometimes there's just nothing you can do? Sometimes you can say your piece, but you can't control other people's lives. You can't control their actions. You could be forceful. And again, like this is like how alike is this with horse training and dominance and making people do something, right? So this trainer and I both have a lot of experience, but we have experience in different realms. We have different experiences and we've had different teachers. And I trust her to be her own person. And I have hired her to do a job. So we're in the round pen and we're talking about equipment. We'd had a Bozell on Charlie, and I was going to go ride with her. So I needed the Bozell for Sipsy, or somebody needed to wear a bit or a halter. So we chose a riding halter with knots for Charlie to give up the Bozell so Sipsy could wear it. I'm riding in a bareback pad. She's riding in a balanced ride saddle. And I ask, as I always do you want a helmet? Because helmets have saved my life twice. And because when I was taught always wear a helmet. You never know what's going to happen. I've got some really dented up helmets and I have a good brain still, thank God. So I asked a helmet. She didn't want a helmet. We walked up my driveway, walked up the road, which scares the shit out of me because sometimes there's log trucks, but there weren't. It was late in the day. And up to a trail. And we went up this trail. And my horse didn't want to go through the gate. She didn't want to go through the gate to the trail. And I had to get off and walk her. I had to walk her for a while. And then I got back on. And I should say that the one trail ride I've been on in 4 or 5 years is on Charlie down at her place. So when I've ridden up and down the driveway, I've ridden in the pasture, I've ridden for about 15 to 20 minutes at a time because that's all I want to do. And that's all my horse wants to do, has wanted to do. So as we're doing this, Charlie's going along just fine. He walks out like he could keep up with any gaited horse. Like he's got a nice forward walk. And we started up. My horse was misbehaving. My horse was saying, I don't want to do that. So here's a point at which I need to make a choice. Am I going to force her? Is old school coming back into my head? Make her do it. Get off and make her do it. Don't leave off here. That's bad training. And I can tell you that Carissa's told me many, many times, it's okay to just get off. That's okay. It's better to get off than to get hurt. It's not going to destroy your relationship like staying on might. So I got off her, and I did make her. I made her go up this little berm of dirt, which, we walked it 3 times. I got back on her and I made her do it with me on her back. And that was a success. I probably should have stopped there. But I'm looking up the hill. And the last time we'd done some horse hiking in this place, on this trail. And the last time Charlie had been really interested in what was up that hill. So I suggested that she take him up the hill and see what happened. And I would just walk Sipsy up the hill, and it might take me a little while. And she did that. So I'm halfway up the hill walking my horse. She's at the top of the hill, and I can see them escalating. She's turning him in circles. Again, he has a halter on. He's had trouble balancing. And I say, how about you get off him and you ride Sipsy, and I'll just walk with Charlie for a while. That's what felt right to me, to my knowing. Like, we got to listen to our intuition. And she said, no, I can teach him how to navigate down this hill and how to carry my weight. Like, okay. So I'm watching them, and Charlie and I had an agreement. If you need me to get off your back, instead of bucking, I want you to take your nose and touch my boot. And he had done that to me the 2 times that I'd been on him since I'd brought him home from her house. I'd been on him for 5 minutes, and he put his nose on my boot, and I got off. Again, there's nothing wrong with getting off. I mean, you're not making a lot of forward progress, but in my mind, there's a reason he's asking me to get off. And yeah, that's a hard edge. Is that the reason? Like, we always doubt ourselves. I set up this communication. Can I trust it? Does it mean something else? Can I push through it? Where is the edge? Where's the edge? So I see him do this with her. He puts his nose on her boot and he looks at me. Aren't you going to do something? That's how I read it. Again, I paid her to do a job. I've spoken my piece. The next thing that happens is he starts running down the hill that's covered with big gravel. And I'm like, oh no, this is not good. This is not good. She can't grab a one-arm stop in this halter. She would have if she'd put a bit in his mouth. She would have been able to. And next thing you know, he starts bucking. And she comes up over the top of him and does one flip in the air and one shoulder roll flip on the ground. And I'm like, oh my gosh. She's hurt. She says, my clavicle is broken. I don't doubt that one bit. She's also scraped up. She's hit her head. I'm holding my horse. I'm trying to calm Charlie down, who is still bucking and is coming down to her. So I move him over so she's not in his trajectory as he's bucking down the hill. And I bring my horse closer, trying to get the rein, which is a loop rope from a halter that is now on his front foot. And I try to calm him. I'm grounding my feet. I'm like, it's okay, Charlie. It's okay. And I think I'm going to get him calm. And just when I think I'm going to get him calm, I step over to try to get the rope. I let go of my horse, and she's like, no, it's a much better idea for us to run home. So they ran off down the hill with him rein looped over front leg, her trailing her loop also. I'm like, I just hope they go home. I hope that's what happens, because we're half a mile away, maybe a little more. And there's a road with traffic on it, which scared the crap out of me. But my brain is offline. Like, I am in reptilian brain. I am fight or flight. My mouth is dry. I have adrenaline. I don't know what to do next. I'm barely thinking. And I'm like, okay, is she okay? And she's like, go get the horses. I'm fine. I'm like, no, I'm not leaving you here. So I get her up. She's able to walk. We try to assess her neck, her back, and thank goodness she's young. And we proceed to walk down the hill. So these 2 things that happened last week are in such sharp sharp contrast. We have this lovely 7-hour day where there's no sense of time and nothing but connection and regulation. And the series of pretty horrible events that end in a trip to the emergency room and a horse that I don't know what to do next with. So I can't not say, I mean, I need to include that part of where my subconscious brain has been last week and what I've been processing has manifested in real time. And the traumatic memory that I'm processing is huge. It was my son's suicide, where I also felt very helpless, tried to help, said what I could, and in the end, I could do nothing. And it repeats itself because we create with our thoughts, our words, our deeds, and our actions. And let me add our subconscious. So, I mean, there's a lot of things that should I have waited for a different week? I mean, there's always something that we're processing, right? And the trainer, as I'm apologizing for what happened to her, I mean, it's my horse, it's not my fault, but it's my horse. She keeps saying things happen for a reason. It's okay. Maybe he saved me from getting on a worse horse where I might have been killed, which is a great attitude to have, right? So I don't know if it's because I have an autistic brain that I see all of the many layers of this. You know, I've had friends say to me, you know, people just don't think that much about stuff. Is she not like you do? And I've heard Elon Musk in one interview say, you have no idea what it's like to be in my brain. And I have a small idea, like his brain is way bigger with way more ideas than mine. And mine will shut off, probably thanks to the horses. But the way we have to think, the way we have to completely see all the different sides and causations and threads that are related to any particular issue. Like, I want part of this to be about that. I want people to understand that, because if you don't think about things deeply, and maybe more people do than I think, I don't know, like, we're still learning so much about autism and autistic brains. And on the spectrum, this has just come into my awareness that makes so much sense. Every autistic person is going to have times where they're dysregulated and overwhelmed, and then they're very functional. And within that, we also have a lot of people that have developmental disabilities where they're very challenged, not necessarily because of autism, but in addition to autism. And they're going to function well and function not well with overwhelm, but their base level is different, just like there are different levels of IQ, emotional intelligence, and all kinds of other perspectives in people that are not on the spectrum. And I think all of this is important to understand, because the terms that we're using, like disability or high functioning, are not accurate to what we're trying to describe. They're not helpful at all, one bit in the least. I know that's off subject, but it's not, because we're talking about my experience. My podcast is about horses and about autism and how these things are interrelated. And it's also about psychology. So I am going to call in people to comment on this. And my big question is, what do I do? Like, am I at a point, and I was saying this in the round pen right before we went on the trail ride, I might be done riding. I might be done riding because my horse Sipsy doesn't really want to be ridden anymore. She wants to hang out in the round pen with singing bulls and dancers and tappers and people that are just being present and want to be. Because what horses seem to really be here to teach us is how to be. And I think the Kai, what's her name? I can't think of her last name. Kai with the telepathy tapes. she's getting to a point where I think she's saying that the nonverbal autistic children that meet on the hill telepathically are saying the same thing. Our world is about to shift. The science that's now documenting how intention manifests in the field, how powerful intention in our subconscious minds are. The science is catching up. I can't help but think it's related to AI, but here I go on and on. Lots of stuff to think about. The main question is here, what do I do with Charlie? The dilemma, do I just have him be a therapy horse? Let him be? Or do I try to get him trained after now probably having 2 bad experiences under saddle? One of the reasons that I told Sipsy that she needed to be trained was if something happens to me, you need to have value as a horse to other people so you don't end up at the slaughterhouse. That's why you need to know how to be ridden. What are we doing? What are we doing with horses? I can't wait to hear what they have to say. Thanks for listening.